So here's a situation. You walk into a networking event, name tag on, drink in hand, and within 30 seconds, you're already thinking, I don't belong here. Everyone else seems smooth, natural, effortless, and you're stuck trying to figure out how to start a conversation without sounding awkward. So you do what everyone tells you to do. Just introduce yourself. Ask what they do. Be confident. But it never feels natural. It feels forced, like you're performing instead of connecting. So you leave early. You tell yourself networking just isn't your thing and go back to applying online. Here's the part no one tells you. Networking isn't about being good at talking. It's about handling a few small moments while starting the conversation, keeping it natural and ending it clean. Miss any one of those and it feels awkward. Get them right and it just feels like a normal interaction. And that's a skill nobody teaches. So I went into the research, psychology, behavior, real-world experiments, and broke it down into simple, repeatable ways to handle networking events in real life. Let's get into it. So let's start with the hardest part, walking up to someone. This is where most people freeze because they think they need to say something impressive. You don't. You just need something normal. At an event, that can be as simple as, hey, how do you know the host? Or have you been to one of these before? Or honestly, even this works. I just got here and don't know anyone yet. Mind if I join you? That's it. Because the goal isn't to impress, it's just to make the interaction possible. And here's what most people don't realize. There's research showing we overestimate how awkward this will feel and underestimate how open other people are. So while you're hesitating, the other person is probably hoping someone walks up to them too. Now let's say the conversation starts. This is where people accidentally kill it. They jump from question to question like it's an interview. What do you do? Do you like it? And it feels flat. Instead, stay on one thing a little longer. If someone says, I work in marketing, don't move on. Lean in. Oh, what kind of marketing? How did you end up there? What's been the most interesting part so far? Remember, you're not trying to collect answers. You're trying to understand a person. And that shift is what makes a conversation feel real. Tip 3. React first, then ask. This one's important because it is subtle. Good conversations don't feel like questions, they feel like reactions. So instead of jumping straight into another question, respond first. For example, that's actually really interesting. I've heard that space is changing a lot. Or, that's a pretty unconventional path. Was that intentional? See, now it doesn't feel like an interview. It feels like you're thinking with them. And psychologically, that matters because people feel more connected when they feel understood, not analyzed. Tip 4. The exit and practical ask. So you've had a good conversation. It flowed. You clicked. Now what? This is where most people freeze. They want to stay in touch but don't know how without being weird. Here's the practical move. Before you part ways, if you don't want to continue, just say something like this. I don't want to take up your whole time, but this was great. And if you do want to stay in touch, hey, I've really enjoyed talking. Would you be open to staying connected? What's easiest for you? LinkedIn, Instagram, or exchanging numbers? This works because you're not forcing anything. You're giving them an easy out and being clear at the same time. Then, and this is the part most people get it wrong, don't let it end there. Follow up within a few days with something specific, not nice to meet you. That goes nowhere. Instead, hey, I liked what you mentioned about remote work. I saw something related to that, and it reminded me of our conversation. Or even, if you're ever up for grabbing food or checking something out, let me know. Now you're not just another name. You're someone they remember talking to. And if you do end up meeting again, don't default to a coffee chat. Coffee chats feel like interviews disguised as hangouts, so no wonder they're awkward. Instead, doing an activity like grabbing food or checking out that new exhibit actually takes the pressure off. It gives you something to do together, and the talking happens naturally in between. And if you're about to walk into a networking situation like this and feel a bit unsure, I've put together a simple checklist you can quickly go through beforehand, just something to ground you, so you're not overthinking every small moment. And if you're sitting there thinking, why even bother with any of this? Because when you start meeting more people, your world expands. You get new perspectives, new energy, new stories. You feel a little more connected to life outside your usual routine. And more practically, a lot of opportunities don't come from your closest circle. They come from weak ties. People you've met once, maybe twice. The ones who think of you when something comes up, not because you're best friends, but because you crossed their mind at the right time. And that only really works if you're approaching people with curiosity, not just looking for what you can get out of it. And the good news is, you don't need one perfect interaction to make that happen. There's something called the mere exposure effect. We naturally start to like and trust people more the more we see them. So it's less about saying the perfect thing and more about showing up, having small interactions, and letting familiarity do the work over time. Some conversations will go nowhere. Some will turn into friendships, some into opportunities. You don't need to force which is which. If you want to understand your natural approach to this, I'd recommend watching my previous video on network types. Whether you're more of an expansionist or a convener, it changes how you show up and makes this feel a lot more natural. So go into the next room, the next event, the next conversation, a little less in your head and a little more open. That's really all this is.